Hey guys, here we are, the Quiggin Out MMA Podcast, episode 56. And I've got a very special guest. Look at him. He's already shadowboxing. He's going to give away the whole premise of the story. He's an amazing photographer. He's doing some podcasts now. He's a father. He's a husband. And most recently, he was a last-minute fighter who took a fight on 12 and a half hours notice. The one, the only, Stache Mouth, Eddie Martinez. How you doing, brother?
Fantastic. How's your day going?
Doing pretty good. I can't believe I got through that whole thing. I was like, oh.
It was the best ever, bro.
Oh, man. So I'm going to get right into it. Anybody who's been to an Island Fights, who's been to Icon, who's been to PFL recently, has seen you, has seen that mustache. But I want to talk about May 28th, where the day before you're taking pictures at the weigh-ins, somebody doesn't show up, and somehow I thought it was a joke. I don't mean that in a bad way, but I literally thought it was a joke. Like they were like, oh, look, Eddie's going to fight. How the hell did that happen?
So a lot of it, I guess, is right place, right time. And also just saying, the show must go on, and I'll do anything for my family and my crew. So basically, I'm on the road with Mr. Dave Van Auken from Fightbananas. And, my role is just to do some photography for Island Fights. And yeah, I'm at weigh-ins and I'm watching weigh-ins, and they're saying that, somebody's coming in later to weigh in, they're late and whatnot. We get to the end of weigh-ins and I hear about has basically on the verge of being canceled completely, and a fighter would not have an opportunity to show class himself and keep elevating his amateur career to get to pro. And because somebody didn't even call, they didn't show up, nothing. And it's one thing maybe if you called ahead and told us what's going on, but then I hear it's at 155 pounds, so I turn around and I look at Mr. Devin Adams, Mr. Matchmaker and runner of Island Fights right now. And I turn and I say, hey, I think I'm walking at like 160, like walking. And they're like, you want to fight? And I'm like, well, don't cancel the fight. Like, Island Fights is tomorrow. Like, we can't be canceling stuff. We already advertised the fight's going to happen. And I said, so what is it? I said, what's the matchup? I said, because if it's MMA, I'm out. And they go, it's boxing. And I said, damn, man, I used to do Taekwondo. If it was kickboxing, at least have a chance, right? And they go, like, the commission's there, everybody's there, and they look at each other, and like no word is said. They just look at me and they go, we'll make it kickboxing. And so I go, oh, okay. So I'm like, well, do you guys still have the scale? And they're like, oh, you're like, for real? And I'm like, bring out the scale. So I take off my shirt and I jump on the scale, and I'm at 159. So I turn left shoulder and I see Scott Farley from Combat Goat Agency. And I'm like, wait, I'm fighting your guy? Because I know Scott. And he's like, yeah, it's for my fighter. And I'm like, and I see the kid standing there, and he's like, I have a fight? And I'm like, well, yeah. I said, here we go. We're doing kickboxing. And he's like, basically, he's straight and ready to go. He's like, elbows, no elbows. What are we doing? And like commission's all talking. You know what I mean? And commission's all like, no elbows, no elbows. You guys can do this last second. We'll approve. I think he came in at 154, 156. I came in at 159, showed up. And they were like, yeah, absolutely. We approve. You're on tomorrow. And I was like, here we go. So I literally have no cup. I have no gear. I have no mouthpiece. I haven't, bought a mouthpiece in 18 years. And you know what I mean? Like, and I was like, let's go. I had to do this for myself, and I had to do this to hope that, for all those couch potatoes that talk all that crap and like don't even go train, and at least like
you can say shit.
Like, I've had previous training, you know what I mean? But like, I'm not going to talk crap and not also like walk the walk, you know what I mean? So last time I trained was 18 years ago. Officially, I used to do Taekwondo, 3rd degree black belt, competed. So I have done numerous events at a young age, but again, I just haven't done anything except for being behind the camera at the gym in the last 18 years. So it was definitely a great opportunity. And I was just hoping that I can inspire someone to say, whoa, this kid like went for it. Like this guy went for it. You know what I mean? Like, why am I afraid to go for it? Whether it's a job interview or whether it's to go take your first amateur fight or, avenging yourself over a loss or anything like that. Like, just do it. Like, have a positive attitude. And, not only when you go to do that, people get inspired by watching that. And I was hoping to do that day. Yeah, for sure.
And I think you did, because this seems like it's the year for that, because you had, Casey Laydon did it with MMA fighting, but he did the whole Wimp to Warrior. So there was an entire fight camp. There was training. He's already been doing a lot of this stuff. And then you have you, like you said, it's been 18 years. I didn't know about the black belt thing. So that actually was news to me. So that's pretty badass.
Yeah.
But realistically, so many times, no one's ever looked at the photographer and went, hey, you want to fight? And they go, yeah. Like, the fact that you did that, you said right place, right time, being there with Dean Toole, being around the same weight class.
Right.
Just
And
changed
that's
everything.
actually something that I've kind of like in the last 2 years, I've somehow made that like an objective on the regular. And I don't know if it was over, maybe in my mind, I was setting myself up for a situation like this just to wing it and be that guy. But in reality, I think what got me to say, like, let's go is the fact that I'm in the gym watching um, people of all ages succeed, fail, succeed, learn. And I was like, what, why not? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And especially if I could save a match and save the show, why not? Like, this kid is on the trajectory. Caleb, by the way, shout out to you. He's on the trajectory to be a 19-year-old BKFC fighter. You know what I mean? Like, this
Oh,
kid
shit.
wants to be in BKFC by next year, hopefully, and try to like make waves. And I'm super proud of this kid. And I found that out afterwards. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? But it's like, I'm not gonna, the next morning I wasn't gonna be like, oh well, let's cancel this. You know what I mean? Like, no, at that point it was game on, let's have some fun. And a fight's a fight, win or lose, and keep learning. Yeah.
And so I gotta ask, what was the conversation with your wife when you were like, hey, honey, I'm not shooting fights tomorrow. I'm actually fighting. Like, what was that like? Because I have a similar situation and I'll share it afterwards, but I want to hear how that conversation went, because you're already laughing. So I know it was good.
um you could hear the like nerves instantly, kind of like, excuse me, like what? And then it's kind of like you said too. By taking photos, I've taken fun photos with fighters before.
Mhm.
And then so instantly they blast a photo of me at the weigh-ins. There's no backdrop, no nothing, and they're like, "This still isn't real." Like, my wife even kind of was like, "You're joking." You know what I mean? And I'm like, "No, like, I'm doing this tomorrow, and I'm finding a sponsor like on the spot right now, and X, Y, and Z, trying to figure out all this stuff. I'm figuring out what local area in Pensacola, because I'm not from there, can I go buy gear last second. I'm finding all these things out. I'm figuring out who's going to be in my corner, because I showed it with Dave, which is actually doing commentary for the event. So I can't like have him help me out in the corner. You know what I mean? Like,
Although that would have
so
been very Dave-like to commentate while standing in your corner.
while
Saying,
in the corner, that would have been so. Dave can handle it all, so he probably would have figured it out. But yeah, like, and it was such a great eye opener. So like in the future, I hope like even myself can document this event, even in a better eyesight, because being able to see all those steps that a fighter gets to go through, even on a short notice, like having to see the doctors last minute, having to get everything approved by commission, having to get your gear, trying to get a sponsor if you can get one, all of the above, who's going to be in your corner. Thank goodness, because of everybody I've been able to work with through the photography. SD Dumas, who's on his way to UFC, is there to watch fights, and next thing you know, he's like in the locker room with me. You know what I mean? Like, giving me a couple of pointers, and I'm there with his coach, Kyle, and Kyle literally guided me the whole way through it. I did game bred fighting photos, so I met RJ Summerlin. RJ Summerlin literally wrapped my hands in the back. I actually have them right here. Shout out to RJ.
Oh my
You know
God.
what I mean? I got to keep those, and that's a huge, full circle item for me that I took photos of him, over a year ago, and now this guy's wrapping my hands. You know what I mean? And I'm going full circle. So it was just, it was definitely enlightening. It was a dream come true. Everything about it was nerves of all over. It was a roller coaster, like literally. It was fantastic, as it was scary, kind of in a sense. Not like scary, like I can't do this, but scary like a roller coaster. Like I'm excited to do something new again. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense, and I'm glad that you use roller coaster. So, like, even as an adult, I still don't like heights, and I'm gonna tell some of the funny parts of this, but I love roller coasters. It's like you said, that fear where you're going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Okay, it's good. Like we're good. And you go down it. And we went skydiving like 5 years ago. And the worst part of skydiving for me wasn't even jumping out of the plane. It was the plane ride up. It was 20 minutes of thinking about it. And I feel like in that same moment of you walking out there, you probably had that little bit where you were like, holy shit, I'm about to do this.
I
Like,
literally just had this conversation with a friend. I was like, I will never jump out of a plane. He's like, you just like randomly took a fight, and no, I was noticed. I was like, yeah, and I'll do that again, but I'm not jumping out of a plane. They're made for transportation.
the guy,
like, no.
the guy asked me, he goes, what are we doing today? I said, jumping out of a perfectly good airplane. He looked
like,
at me
no,
dead
let's
in
go
the eye and
fight.
goes, when did we get one of those? And I was like, what?
No way, dude. Yeah, no, wow. Like, and that's inspiring in itself. Like, I can't believe jumping out of a plane. It scares me. It terrifies me. Like, that's one thing. My wife wants to do it, but I'm like, nope, I'm good.
You know
I'd
what I've
rather train
learned?
for a fight.
People with kids are a lot less reluctant to jump out of a plane. And I think, being a dad, being a husband, there's a lot on the line if something were to go wrong. Now, granted, you did just go into a place where somebody was trying to, knock you out and punch you in the head purposely. But I get that aspect of it. But I remember, there's video on the internet, and one of these days I'll just show it or I'll send it to you. And I don't remember, we did like a front flip out of the plane. I don't remember that. I don't remember half of it. But all I could remember was I kept doing this. Yeah. And I was just like screaming, like I was laughing like the whole time. The guy gave me a noogie, and he pulls the chute, and if the harness goes straight up. So as a guy, very uncomfortable. Very
Right.
And he whispers into my ear, you ever play Grand Theft Auto? And in my mind, I'm like, that's a really weird thing to say to me while we're here. And he goes, so you've got the straps in each arm. He goes, pull this one down as hard as you can. Now, if you had said that to me on the ground, I know what that does. That's going to send me in a circle. But up there, no brain. So I did it, and we start spinning and spinning. And I am laughing, I'm screaming. Like, at no point was I thinking I'm going to die. And the funniest part is, I can't believe I'm about to tell everybody this. They didn't tell us how we were going to land, so I wore khaki pants. Well, you have to land on your butt.
Right.
So I get up, and there's just a brown streak down the center of my pants.
Like, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Should be like in the paperwork.
Yeah, he goes, when do you want to go again? I go, now? Can we go now? And the guy was like, really? And I never in my life thought in that moment, like, I would want to do that again. And I feel like it couldn't have been more right place, right time for you. Just like you just said, you were just talking to somebody about how you would never do that. But I think I would never, shooting weigh-ins go, hey, I can fight heavyweight. Yeah, sure. Like, no problem. But I think it's a little bit different. The weight difference is, to me, is going to be a little bit more significant.
I think also doing it for so long as a child, you know what I mean? Like, I do have a heavy bag in my back. I haven't taken a class in 18 years, but like every once in a while, I'll try to like kick. And, I've never taken boxing classes before, so I've never been professionally taught how to punch or anything like that. So, I've, done that in the garage. But like I was saying, even before, just taking photos of all these guys and being so inspired by them and being able to watch
You
them
absorb it.
so
Yeah.
regularly, some of the muscle memory, I just felt like it's there. And I kind of needed to know where I was at, muscle memory wise. And that's why, again, I think there was something where like I wanted to save the show. I wanted to prove something to figure out just to myself where I'm at right now. Because I'm watching these guys fight like every Saturday sparring and stuff, and it's like it looks like fun, and I'm like, where am I? Now I didn't think me and Julian Williams from Fusion Excel, the coach, we were laughing about this because we were talking about by the end of the year me taking a fight and me training. And he's literally like 2 weeks ago, I think, was making fun of me, and he was like, "Can you? Why do you have the camera? Like, put the camera down and train." And then like I
That sounds like
message
Julian,
him,
though.
yeah, and I messaged him a couple days later, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm fighting tomorrow," and he's like, he like immediately made some posts, and he's like, you know, no class yet, but he's already taken a fight that sounds like Eddie. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I love Julian. And he's such a great coach, and just being able to watch him and Coach JT over at Technique Boxing, which he also does the boxing at Fusion with Bruno, but just watching them and watching them develop children to adults, anybody from, literally like a neighbor's child to Leota Machida, all in one class room setting, you know what I mean? Or in one gym and doing three different classes or something. So I'm like, to be able to watch them and get inspired by that, I just literally like, yeah, that opportunity was there, and I knew what it meant for that fighter. And I think
Mhm.
a lot of us that are in this industry, we've seen how that could demolish a fighter. They spend so much of their time making little money, and who knows how much from sponsorships and stuff, and then for your fight to get canceled, who knows if any of those fighters have to give money back. I mean, the fight never happened, right? So what's the expectation from their sponsors?
Yeah.
All of the above. And then especially when you're at that young of an age, which I didn't know until after I already signed up for the fight, that he was half my age. But at the same time, finding that out kind of inspired me more to, you better not back out. Like, this kid is on a trajectory to do something at a young age. You know what I mean? Like, time is valuable in that sense when you want to get something done early. So I definitely just felt like, just as part of the crew, if I can make sure his fight kept going, let's go. You know what I mean? And as the professional he is, I know he was ready to throw hands with anybody. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Well, and we're in a day and age where, I was just listening to this, watching the hockey game last night. Go Bolts. Um, they were
Let's
like,
go.
"Oh, they're in their he's 31, he's 32, they're getting old." And I was like, "What?" And then I'm realizing that, other than, the fight that's going to happen tomorrow with Glover being, in his mid 40s, uh,
Right.
being the champion, we're seeing a weird uptick where we're seeing older guys start to perform better. And I think that's, because of everything that's going on, but they also realize that they've been through a lot. And I think for you to notice how important this was to the fight, where you stepped up and fought a dude on 12 hours notice. I'm going to keep reiterating 12 hours, not one day, not
It
two.
always sounds so insane. Hearing it out loud sounds so insane.
And I love that you're still so like excited about it, but you saw something in this kid, whether you knew it was him or not, but you heard about a fight. You said, "Hey, I don't want this to get canceled. Yeah, I'll fight. Like, what's the worst that's going to happen?" And I mean, you had a couple times where you knocked him down, like with those kicks. And I even think he
Yeah.
was like, "Are you guys messing with me? Like, does this guy really know how to fight? Like, is that what's going
Yeah.
on?"
Yeah. And that was the other thing too. Let's talk about like I have fighters messaging me, you have balls of steel, dude, and way to have balls on you, and And it's funny, but at the same time, that kid too, you know what I mean? Like, this guy stood up, turned around saying he'll take a fight. So like, what has this guy got that he's like not scared, you know what I mean, to just step up and fight? So like, yeah, you know, and the cool thing about it too is that I love that I was able to have a professional outlook with him on such short notice, you know, all the way to even now messaging each other on Instagram. We still have a relationship. We immediately hit each other up the next day. How do you feel? Everything feel good? Yeah, I feel good. I was like, I dislocated my toe. How do you feel? He's like, well, my thigh hurts, but you know what I mean? I'm good otherwise. And I'm like, cool. I was like, that's probably where I dislocated my toe.
Yeah,
But
probably.
you know what I mean? Like, but yeah, like that was a whole nother experience that like I was so adrenaline dumped like at the end in the locker room. I looked down at my toe and like my big toe is literally like underneath my toe. And I'm like,
Ooh.
so everybody's like talking to me, and I'm like kind of like sitting on it, kind of like hiding it, and I'm like talking to everybody, and they're like, "Dude, you know that was cool. First round was fun, and then the second round, you know, you had it. Blah blah blah. It was an 8 count, not a 10. You forgot." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." So then they leave, and I literally looked down, and I was like, "Oh, here we go," and and like pull that thing out, and it was like the most relieving thing ever, and like you know, literally the next day my toe is fucking purple. My wife's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Just this is the injury I got out of everything that hurts the most." You know what I mean? Like I had glove marks, of course, like glove burns, but other than that, it was that toe that definitely did some super damage.
And that's funny. And I'm just gonna mention real quick before I forget the uppercut you threw going into the corner was a thing of beauty because you didn't just go, ugh. You literally turned the hips. And again, I think people don't realize that photographers, journalists, everybody in there, whether we're not going to step in the cage, you know, whether we're going to step in the cage or not, we're absorbing things. We're
Yeah.
getting muscle memory from something we have never done before, which should not work.
My wife said she was yelling through the TV because I'll watch UFC events. And this is the other lightning thing. For one thing, from being the guy yelling on the couch, right? It's like you need to really, you will never be able to yell at a fight again the same ever. Like it's literally, it was life changing for me. Okay. Watching like the Avengers is what different for me right now.
Wait,
Like
is it on
any
right
fight
now?
scene.
'Cause-
No, no, no. I'm just saying like
So
any
it's on in my
fight
living
scene.
room. So that's funny.
Oh, that's hilarious. I'm like, yeah, I'm like that TV right there. You know what I mean? Or there it is.
There, it's over there.
So, but like even watching a fight scene on there, like it's life changing. But going to that, being able to now go through the fight and realize, like, I yell at the TV and I'll be like, uppercut, like it's there, like they're here, could just get in there. You know what I mean? And my wife was at the house watching it with a couple of my friends I used to work with from Universal. And shout out to Pete and Alicia and everybody. And literally, I guess when I did that, they were all like, "He did it! He did it!" You know what I mean? So I was like super excited, and you know, to hear that story on their perspective. But it's definitely. I went in there telling myself, excuse me, I was gonna throw a spinning hook kick. Like I went in there telling myself in the first round I was gonna put on a spinning hook kick. Now there's something fighters don't explain, right? And I've had this conversation now with multiple coaches and fighters, and they all go, "You experienced it, huh?" And I go, "Okay, I didn't like." There's one thing to know that my cardio was low, okay, but it's another thing to think like, okay, so you're already dealing with a bad cardio issue on last notice, right?
Yeah.
But not only am I dealing with bad cardio, it's your cardio is just like the video game. You get hit, so now your cardio goes to do. Okay, you throw a hit and miss, and it goes to do. All of these things add up to your cardio just going through the window. Now,
Mhm.
the big one that people don't talk about is literally, and it's probably in certain atmospheres, but at the Pensacola Bay Center, you have those like NHL, like Jumbotron lights right there,
Mhm.
like real boxing lights right there. So you walk into this boxing ring and it feels like a sauna, but no heat.
Oh man.
So that's the best description I've given to fighters, and they go, "Yeah, that's exactly it." And you feel like you walked into a sauna, but like you don't even feel the heat of it. It's the drainage that a sauna gives you.
Without the
You
sauna.
feel that as soon as you walked into the ring. And I was like, dude, I'm taking photos in this ring, and it's never felt the same. I've been in that same boxing ring, Dean Tool Promotions ring, like numerous times. It never felt the same. I kick the pads at home all the time. I haven't put shin guards on in 18 years. That's extra weight added onto your legs. So, like, even throwing that leg kick, I felt good, but I also haven't felt myself hit somebody with a pad on.
Mhm.
Like, raw leg to leg is one thing, but like with a shin guard to the leg, it like was heavier. I felt like it was wearing Jordans or something, like just a heavy shoe, like Timberlands. You know what I mean? Like, and then things that fighters don't talk about, and you just you learn. But for those that are trying to take their first fight, one thing you got to realize, I showed up thinking I'm third fight. I get there and look at the bout list, and I'm 10th on the list. So I go from being like within the first like hour to like one of the last hour. You know what I mean? So
Oh man.
like mentally you got to adjust. You have now more time. You think you're kind of pumped up walking into this place like fighter meeting, and you're going to get ready to go. You're like, now you're fighting ring, now go watch fights, or train in the back, like all of that. So it's all these things that again, back to it, it's just so life-changing to see those different aspects, whether it was the sauna ring that basically I didn't even think of. The entrance is fun. Don't blow out your lungs during an entrance. But I also thought I had more time before my bout. Not that any of this is an excuse, but again, eye opener for those going to take a fight. Watch how close to your fight you blow out your lungs in the back training.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, knockouts are happening in front of me. So I go from being 6 fights to like hand wrap, blah, 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 blah. Now there's like 4 fights. Now I'm starting to punch stuff to like you're next on deck because like 2 knockouts happen and like one goes
God.
super fast. So like because that happens, I'm thinking I'm blowing out my lungs, getting good, feeling good, starting to breathe, and they're like, "Hey, where's Eddie? You're up." And I'm like, "Oh, here we go." You know what I mean? And then me and coach look at each other, and he said, "Just control your breathing and relax. Like it is what it is. We can't change anything." So I was like, "Cool." You know what I mean? Like, let's go and do it. And I went and had, the time of my life. And I definitely want to get a camp in if I do this again, maybe July 29th. But I don't know if like maybe that's happening at Island Fights or not. So,
Just point at your shirt. Just be like,
oh
I
yeah, that's
like.
right. Maybe what is 73? I'm still talking to the family and figuring out. I think we had a vacation planned, but when the boss calls, you try to make something work.
And I think it's so cool that like going through this because I watched MMA for let's see 2008, 2009 is when I started. So I started way late, but I got hooked. I was obsessed. I wanted to watch every old thing. And we've talked about this so many times. One of my special co-hosts, Nick Ramirez, when we met, we worked at Best Buy. He was like, "Oh, you like fights?" He's like, "Come over and watch some Pride fights." And we watch like 6 hours at a time. And he'd be like, "No, don't watch this. This fight's whack. No, watch this. No, watch this one." And we would just go through that over and over. And I remember one day watching a fight and I just went, "Why aren't you getting up? Like, what the hell?" And I didn't really like commit myself to jiu-jitsu until 3 years ago. Like I had been on and off, but I got in that same position. And I remember the day exactly because I went, "Oh, that's why he can't get up, because he can't get up." And I think,
Yeah, that's like, the buildup in your arms from throwing all those punches and stuff. It's like I don't wear gloves on a regular. So like those things you get used to, it's like you got to fight or flight. You know what I mean? Like here we go. And so that is something that again for those that are like getting in, it's like all those things you got to like when you're watching this stuff and watching a UFC event, and when these professionals are not doing something, there's got to be a reason.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
absolutely.
Like, and there's like, again, I'm a Taekwondo guy, and it looked like I may have taken some sort of boxing class before. Like, I was throwing punches more than kicks. Like, and that's what I mean, like that. Not saying that anything looked technically good or anything, but what I'm saying is, like, for me to have that whole Taekwondo record breakdown and me not throw one back kick, one roundhouse kick to the head, like, I didn't do any of that. And it was like, you're in the moment. And that's the other thing too. It's like, it's true. When you're in the ring, you don't see the crowd at all.
Nope.
Like that, you don't see that. I barely see who's next to the ropes. And like another thing in that explanation, I'm a photographer. I can tell you from start to finish of my fight, I did not see one photographer because you're not focused on that at all. And I'm a photographer. You know what I mean? Like, you thought I had a chance to pose for myself? No, you don't got time for that. You're here to
I
fight.
wish you would have just went and stopped mid uppercut, looked over and went.
You know what I mean? Like, and again, even that, like, that one moment replaying it, it's like, again, I'm that guy that from the couch is like, why isn't this guy like trying to just go up through the middle, at least go? Now, again, post fight, it's a lot of energy right there. You know what I mean? I tried to do something because I knew it was going to be the end of the round right there, knowing I was going to go to take a break. Now, with that being said, too, if you also notice, when I go to take my break, I'm all the way in his corner.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to go to his corner. Now you got to sit down. Now, this is the first time in my life I've ever had somebody like, sir, shaking your body out, put ice, you know what I mean? Spit out water, spit, boom, boom. Oh, we're back up. Like, literally, it felt
like fractions of a second.
Fractions. And while you're doing that, right, somehow there's fans that kind of know your name because of the introduction and stuff. So they're yelling Eddie behind you. I got my coach trying to tell me what to do. SD's telling me what to do. Dean Toole is on his feet yelling at me saying, you better go, bro. And like, you know what I mean? Like, I see Pearl, David, and all them like right here, and I'm trying to listen to what they're all saying. So like, I think there's a photo even on my like Instagram, and it's me like kind of like just taking, like literally just taking in like 5 people's info, and like I hear bing bing, so it's like you just get up and it's like muscle memory. Here we go. And then you just go at it. And then that was the other thing, is going in the second round, I was like, my cardio is blasted. So at this point, you have to pick shots and hope that you can like take something and dish one out. Tried my best, didn't get the win, but definitely learned so much about myself and what to do next time.
And I love that you're even talking about it next time. But like, seeing you get all excited about this, like, you've told this story. You've told these stories to probably hundreds of people at this point, because you will literally grab somebody off the side of the street and be like, did you see my fight? Like, did you see this? Because it's so unbelievable that something like this would happen.
Yeah, and it was like you were saying,
I've never heard of it in 14 years plus of me watching. I've never seen a photographer jump in. I've seen CEOs, and I don't count those, because like Ray Sefo did it, and I was like, it's Ray Sefo. Like, I don't want to hear it. And I think Lex McMahon had a fight. And then more recently, one of the submission grappling, one of the guys went against Clay Guida, who was the CEO of that. And I went, yeah, but you guys have trained before. Like, you've done something recently. And this inspired you to not only say, okay, that wasn't a one and done. Because I think in your mind, when you took the fight, you were like, maybe that was a one and done. But when you left, win or lose, you went, no, I'm doing this again. I'm doing this.
No, yeah, and it was funny because I've talked to Beast Boy Mike Davis, and I immediately were talking about this because, you know, we talk on a regular. Shout out Beast Boy. You know, he's the one I was talking about, that whole like quicksand sauna feeling in the ring. He's like, how do you feel? And I was like, I think I'm going to do it again. And he's like, he's addicted. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, bro. He's like, I'm gonna laugh at your ass on the mat though. And I'm like, you asshole. But that's the other thing is I think it's almost literally it's a movie. Okay. Like I am very lucky to have put myself in this situation where I'm surrounded by professional fighters from different organizations, and I've been able to learn. And for those that have known me ever since working at Universal Studios and stuff, I network. I will get to know the merchandise people. I will get to know the front door person. I will get to know security. I will get to know everybody because it's all one huge family. And then it's like when somebody needs help, you just like reach out and help. And in this sense, it's like this whole family, like with these fighters and being able to learn from them and gain that knowledge, like it's dumb for me not to like utilize that. You know what I mean? It's like being around such a talented teacher, but not ever asking for any of their tools. Like that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like I'm literally like, it's like I'm printing their book out with them, but not reading it at all. Like, no, I might as well read like what's right in front of me. So I think you guys huge, like even Phil Rowe, I've been doing a lot with lately. Yeah, like I'm really excited to get in, work with him, Alex Nicholson. Yeah, I'm just super excited.
Woo!
Yeah, I did some sparring with him this last week, and yeah, I couldn't really get around his reach. I had to get him with a body shot once or twice, but that's about it. He woke me up with
a head though, so yeah.
Yeah, he woke me up with a couple of those.
That was funny because I was there for some of Alex's first fights as an amateur and Mike Perry's, which everybody sees the new announcement that Mike Perry's fighting Michael Venom Page. What most people don't realize is that before he got in the UFC, I'll have to find the post. It's out there somewhere. And it's Mike literally with a picture of MVP, and he's like, give me this fight, Bellator. Like, give me this had to be like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And so for it to finally happen, but I remember like, Mike's first fight, he threw a flying armbar, landed on his head, and almost knocked himself out. It was hilarious, to watch. And then I remember watching Alex fight. He had to fight his teammate, I think, for the belt. And his dad was sitting next to me, and he goes, hey, that's my son. And if you've ever met Mark, that's just how he is. He's always like, that's my kid.
Actually, if I could kind of bring up something kind of crazy. So my original Taekwondo teacher apparently was friends with Mark Nicholson.
Jeez.
Yeah. So this is, for if my mom or dad are watching this or anybody else that knows me from that far. So Master Main was my first Taekwondo. Richard Main was my first Taekwondo teacher in the States. And I guess, I was talking to Alex and Mark at one of the fights, and, I was telling him about Taekwondo, and I was like, I know you guys did Taekwondo. Did you guys ever know my teacher? Because he passed away and X, Y, and Z. And he's like, you're talking about Richard? Oh, yeah, I know Richard. And I was like, awesome. Like, just seeing his reaction, I was like, awesome. They must have been besties. So if you know Mark, you could only imagine like what my teacher was like. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the funniest thing is that being around those people, I feel like fighting has just brought a different side of them out. Obviously Mike's had his issues in the past and Alex has had his issues, but who hasn't? When you're in that spotlight, you're definitely a lot more, the light is shining on you. A perfect example.
There's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure, but at the same time, like, I'm even going to bring this up, and I can't believe I'm about to do this, but like the Johnny Depp thing, like people watched that for weeks, and I was like, if that was Joe next door, nobody gives a shit. Like nobody wouldn't care about that. But because you're in that spotlight.
That's why one thing I like about like us, and I think we do very well with our fighters, that we are able to shed light on them in the podcast media world, is you don't have to be that news guy.
No.
You know what I mean? And that's the issue, is Mike Perry had too many people take the opportunity to utilize his name at a negative to get like clickbait. Now, like I just did a podcast with Phil Rowe. If you guys, if I could shout that out.
Do it.
Phil Rowe.
This show, implore you to self-advertise. I mean,
So
I'm
like
literally
Phil
like,
Rowe. Yeah, I
I'm
see
wearing
you
all
all
my
day,
shit.
of course. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button.
Like,
No,
subscribe. I wish my fingers would go like onto your screen. Like, I think that'd be even funnier.
right. But for real, if you guys go on YouTube and look up Philly Fresh MMA, there is a very insightful podcast, like interview style of him cutting Mike Perry's hair, and there's some things in
Oh,
there
it's
about him and
fantastic. It's so
thanks.
good.
So yeah, Phil is really good at what he does, and he, as a fellow fighter, I feel like there's a comfort level that even we can only get to. And
Yeah.
Phil, knowing most of these people and have worked with them in and outside the ring, I think there's a comfort level that everybody has. Now, Phil isn't going to go around and start asking you all the negative things about your life. So, like, if you look at that interview with Mike Perry, it's such a good interview and there's nothing negative about it and no negative things need to be said about him or his name. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Instead of other media that's like, I mean, obviously now with what he's doing in BKFC, thank goodness. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe there's too many people close to UFC, and I guess I'm saying this, but some of us UFC media guys need to like learn at what you're shedding light on. You just don't know anything, so you're just picking at like the negative stuff. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, get to know these fighters and learn more about them as a human, and maybe you have a better story to tell other than clickbait stuff. Mike has a lot of stuff to talk about, you know what I mean? And it's asking the right questions and you know what I mean, figuring that out. And I think that's one thing about why he has so many fans. Whether it's like about the Dragon Ball Z conversations, you don't hear people talking about that in like Media Row. They don't want to talk about that. They're like, what negative thing can I talk about? Not like, hey, bro, what's your favorite episode of Dragon Ball Z? Because I know all your fans want to hear that. You know what I mean? And I think that's one thing, you know, you and, you know, we do well at Five Bananas is we try to build a connection with each other and with the fighters. And I think that's what's most important. Even the full circle with Alex Nicholson. And like you said, around 2008-9, I want to say was Alex Nicholson's maybe debut, maybe even before that.
Yeah.
And I remember just being, you know, in my friend's kitchen, you know, I'm hanging out with my boys, Rosie, Chris Brown, and, you know, Jimmy Lee and all them. And we're just getting drunk, drinking Coors Light, watching UFC. And I'm like in the fridge, like, who needs a re-up? And I hear from Apopka, Florida, Alex Nicholson. And I was like, everybody shut up right now. I have the TV volume all the way up. Like, This is it. This is a guy like from Apopka. This is where I went to high school. So watching that and hearing that he went to the same high school for me and graduated from there, and then hearing that Mike Perry went to the same high school with me, I was like such
Dude,
an instant
awesome.
UFC fan. Like, I kind of liked UFC, but now I was addicted.
Yeah.
And then I found out, you know, they worked out at Fusion Excel. And that's where I hit up Mike Perry in the DMs and I said, hey, on Instagram, I said, hey, I would love to do some photos for you. You went to the same high school for me. I was like, no charge. I just literally would like to like gift you like whatever photos I can.
Yeah.
And he was like, all right, bet. And this is when I was working a third shift job. So I was getting off of work at like 5 a.m. And he's like, be at the gym at like 8 a.m. And I was like, oh, no time for sleep. Here we go. And ever since then, they've treated me like family. And so that's where you'll see me on the daily usually. And again, that's the people that like inspire me to be able to even get off my ass and go take that fight.
Well, and it's funny. So I got to bring this up, and I was looking at this. I was listening, but I was trying to find this. So I did an interview with Mike in 2016, and the title of the article was Mike Perry, the Platinum Super Saiyan of the universe. So I was right there with you, like
there. Yeah, you see what I mean? Like, and it's those fun things that literally, that's what I want to follow. You know what I mean? Like, if you're that person that needs to follow a negative thought process, then I mean, like, look at what we're even putting out there to get followers. You know what I mean? And then look at what type of followers you're actually gaining. It's just obviously people that want negative stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I
And
mean?
people don't
Like,
want to tell the real story. And I realized that, it took me a long time being in the MMA journalism world that it was like you couldn't be friends with fighters. You couldn't name drop fighters because that was looked at as unprofessional. And I met Dwayne Finley, started getting introduced to his work, and I started watching what Dwayne was doing, and I went, he's being friends, but he can still tell a story with being objective. And he's not just saying, oh, this guy's a piece of shit, or this guy's doing this, or this guy's doing that. Focus on the positive. Like, we're going to talk about the negative stuff, but it's not going to be the point of this conversation. And I love that you brought up that Phil Rowe, Mike Perry thing, because I watched that and I was like, man, this is like watching a barbershop conversation. Like, you're sitting there as a kid and your dad's getting a haircut and you're just listening to these guys talk and reminisce and talk about stuff that they have in common. And with
yeah.
Phil being the barber, has that extra bit of insight, that extra bit of this. I'm not just the guy cutting your hair listening to you. Like, I'm going to ask you questions that are relevant to our lives as fighters.
Yeah, and that's what makes I think his interviews so enlightening and so easy to continue to listen to and whatnot. It's because he's very intelligent in that field. You know what I mean? And I think that he is one of those guys that will not be afraid and show up to another gym on a sparring day or jiu-jitsu day and just train with them and try to literally challenge the baddest guy on the mat, because I mean that's literally who Phil is. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like him wrestling Ryan Gordon, like, you know what I mean? Like, nobody wants that. Phil does. You know what I mean? Because Phil's going to test himself and he's going to put himself against the best in the world because he's fighting the best in the world. You know what I mean? Like, and he's not afraid. Like, he's going to go learn.
Was that a CM Punk reference, or we just?
Oh yeah, right. Oh, there's my next walkout, right? Yeah.
Oh man.
No. Actually, let's see. Does he want to fight? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh
Just kidding.
shit. Listen, we talked about this on the last episode, but I'll bring it up. I was there for CM Punk's debut at UFC 203, and when I
That
tell
was
you,
Gall?
yeah,
You're right.
when I tell, see, you said you didn't remember stuff, but that one, when
I remember that one.
Cult of Personality hit, the lights went off in that building, and it hit. Dude, the goosebumps that I felt and the electricity that I could literally feel from other people standing around me was unlike anything to this day that I've ever experienced.
That was I thought I was ready for that, and then I wasn't ready for it. So the entrance,
Yeah.
I obviously wanted to not, I mean, I didn't know if this was going to be a one-time deal or not. So I always said if I was going to do something, I want something that the crowd has fun with,
Yeah.
because it is about entertainment, right? So I'm talking to Dean Tool in the office, and he's like answering, text messages. Like, people are picking up their VIP tickets at his office. Like, he's selling solar. He's
being
booking
Dean
fights.
Tool. He's being Dean Tool.
Doing, yeah, literally octopus, right? So, like, literally, it's one thing I say about all of our team is we're all literally an octopus. We have too many hands for our body, but like, he's doing all that, and I'm like, I said, Dean, I kind of need a badass song. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I if I'm gonna do this, I want to do a badass song. What do you think about like this type of song? And he goes, I like that vibe. Do you like this one? And I instantly was like, yes, we're doing that. I was like, that is what we're doing, and we're gonna get the crowd on their feet. So we did that. But one thing I didn't really think about was like the crowd's reaction. Like, I'm like, it's Pensacola. Nobody knows who I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, the whole crowd like starts roaring, and I'm like, this is awesome. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is awesome. But at the same time, I was kind of like, I was instantly like so humbled. Like, this is such an amazing opportunity. Like, put on a fucking show. Like, you go to you're knocked out or he's knocked out. Like, just go. You know what I mean? And I went out and got up there, and I was like so fucking hyped, and it literally ruined like tunnel vision. And next thing you know, I was already in the boxing ring, and all I remember was like looking across and not hearing anything. Like it just tunnel vision. Like when they were announcing his name, my name, it's like I couldn't hear any of that. Like I just literally was looking across, like, here we go, this is about to happen. Like a bull and go. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, literally. It was great. It was such a humbling experience. And again, like for anybody that's thinking about doing it, go train and go do it. Like because it is going to be the best moment of your life.
And it's crazy, like that we're even talking about this because again, you and I have been talking for a long time. I remember the time we met.
Yeah.
It was at the BKFC and they wouldn't give you credentials. And it's nothing against BKFC, but it was a little disorganized at the time. And they were just kind of like,
that was Bigfoot versus Gonzaga.
It was. Dude, so I got to the table. I remember the first time I went to a BKFC event, they said credentials will be available until 6:30. And I had to work until 5:30. So I literally rushed over there and I got there like 6:15. The table's gone. Like the table's gone. Nobody knows where it is. Sorry, you're too late. And I was like, what?
Oh my goodness.
And that was BKFC. I think that was 6. That was Artem and was it Artem and Knight?
I was just gonna say, was it Knight actually?
Yeah.
Damn.
It was the Artem fight because Lieben fought on that one too. And I remember then we met at 8, and I remember like I saw the mustache. Like I literally looked through the crowd and I saw the mustache over everything else, which I thought was hilarious at the time. And like they were just like, I was like, man, I wish I could just get you in. And from that day, I feel like you've elevated yourself so much. And it's, it's not a dick riding kind of moment, but I'm just going to say it because we had to watch the commentary for the Lightning game last night and there was enough of that. But realistically, like I've watched you evolve. I've watched you upgrade your gear, which has been fun because as another photographer, I can tell. But it's not just, hey, look, he has a fancy camera. Like, you know how to get the shots, you know the angles, and you take a different approach. And that's why I love every single person who's an MMA photographer, whether it's Ryan Loco, whether it's Esther Lynn, whether it's, yourself, whether it's Speedy Ruiz, Phil Lambert, all these guys. You can look at those pictures and you go, that's Eddie's picture. That's Ryan's picture. And Ryan's gonna, I keep bringing him up.
Excuse me.
Because he thinks he's terrible. He literally thinks his pictures are awful. And I'm like,
Loco?
Yeah.
I know. I met him at XMMA. And when it's like in our field, like no, somebody doesn't know who it is, but we're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Dude, I saw him and I was
yeah.
I think when I got my first UFC credential, and I say first, but I mean my only UFC credential, I couldn't believe it. And I remember being excited to be in that room, but then I looked like 5 feet away and there Ariel was and Esther Lynn, and I lost my shit. I was like fangirl, like fanboy, fangirl, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, to me, Esther is an inspiration. Her photos, some of the photos she's caught, not only in MMA, but some of the boxing photos she's caught, specifically, the Wilder and Fury fight. Holy shit, man. Like, that stuff's insane, and it inspires me to be better. And I don't think I've ever talked about this on the show, but I had her and Casey on the show for my 3rd episode, and I was so petrified that something was going to go wrong that I was recording the screen and I had Audacity running in the background. Well, the Audacity took precedence. So it only recorded the audio, or it only recorded the video for the podcast.
Oh.
And they didn't start at the same time. So they were like 3/8 of a second apart. So I had to literally like find the medium, and I panicked so hard because I said the one episode where I get one of my idols when it comes to photography, and I messed up something as simple as that. Dude, I couldn't believe it, man.
It's like one of the things I do on the side. So Disney World here in Orlando, which I live across the street from.
Hey, are those fireworks?
Yeah, they were. Yeah, they actually were. But I do third-party excuse me, let me restart that. So at Disney, if you want to do your wedding there and want video, a third party is who you go to get the video hired. So I'm currently on a team with these guys that are all YouTubers. And like I like
Wait,
look at them
YouTubers
put
are like YouTubers, like good.
like dude, like they have their gear set up like, this is the McLaren that just dropped, this is the new EOS 10 that just dropped, everything, right? So they're great. And I get to learn from them on a regular. And my main, what I call my Jedi Knight, right, is Ray Valencia. But Ray has taught me so much through the time that you've seen me develop that I basically, if I have any questions, that last second before I go to press purchase on Amazon or wherever I'm going, like I'm calling Ray and I'm like, is this a dumb option? Or do you think, because I think this is what I want for my kit? And he'll tell me pros, cons, and if there's something similar to it, what the difference would be. And I just make my decision and go from there. So I'm grateful to have him around. But I think, just like I think the hardest part at our beginnings is getting out there.
Yeah.
And
It's knowing your worth too, because I think that to me has been the biggest thing I've learned in the last year. And I've been taking
right,
pictures for 15 years, but I haven't like learned where I should. But I think you're absolutely right. It's having somebody that you can go to, but it's also like knowing like, hey, stop doing shit for free.
right. And I think that's a big thing because in our industry too, there's going to be our time to do what we know as pro bono work, right? In
Mhm.
order to kind of like, just like somebody else would audition for a movie role, or something like that. Like you're trying to show them your work, and it's not like a painting that you're going to redo over and over of a house. Like it is live action, so they need to know what we can do on the spot, and then the more they look at it, and just like any promoter or agency, I think everybody's looking for a certain eye or view, and then the other ones were more creative in a different aspect. But I think that's the biggest thing again, is just getting out there and just trying to figure out what your eye even is, what
Yeah.
your point of view is when you take these fights. I think we go through changes of what lenses we use. I don't think there's a right or wrong. The more that I've been changing and kind of going to like the standard, sometimes I want to go back to just a prime lens
Yeah.
and do
And my
everything
50
just in a
millimeter
prime
is my
lens.
go-to.
The
Like
which one?
my 50 millimeter, man. Like I want a
So
35,
and
but I
it's
love the
crazy.
prime lens.
So right now I'm stuck on 35. Right now I'm 35, but I was on
Oh,
50
you're also
for a
shooting.
while.
You're shooting an R6, right? Or an R5.
Yeah, I am. I'm shooting an R6 right now with the 35 on my gimbal on a regular. That would be if someone asked me what my current setup is.
Yeah.
My
For everybody
microphones that I'm
listening,
using,
we're nerds. We're
yeah,
camera nerds. Like,
for us nerds out here, I'm using the GoPro 2s, the Goes,
Mhm.
for the microphones. When I use those set up with like JT and Julian and all them. But yeah, I'm just using that. I'm actually, my workflow is off an iPad Pro. For any of you that are trying to, look into it, the only thing I would say is just make sure you have storage on the iPad. Don't get the small storage,
Yeah, no.
and you can run and gun and get stuff done on the fly. I think one thing that helped me with my profession in using the iPad was I bought the adapter to instantly put my photos so I can instantly see what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So even at like a event, for instance, you could go take some, once you see like the event gets its lighting situated, take some test photos, put it on your iPad, see what it looks like. And if you need to adjust from there, you could even adjust from there. And I think that got me more comfortable with my camera and what my camera can do in low light settings.
Yeah.
And yeah, just like, and it's just like, I think that's what got me into the fighting even more, and the way I put the two together, it's kind of like the more you train at it, the better you're gonna get.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think, I learned when I was dedicated to Taekwondo and doing all that, I put my heart to it and I knew what I want. And I think that's something that, thanks to my wife and my family around me, I've been able to kind of take the chance to do this because not everybody can take that chance.
No.
So you got to have a strong family and a strong support system in order to do that. Um, And I think that's, why I'm literally where I'm at right now, is because I've had that support system to back me up. And I was able to, go from making, figures as a restaurant manager here in Orlando to quitting completely to go to the gym and take, videos of fighters from amateur to pro. Some of these guys don't even have money yet. You know what I mean? But I'm not going to not take photo or video of them because, I mean, honestly, too, I don't know if there's a local gym that you're going to for most of your content or not. But one thing I've realized too is all the amateurs are the ones that need the marketing.
Yeah.
They literally need to find a sponsor. They literally need to like find a way out of their full-time job. Like these guys are working full-time jobs and still traveling up to like an hour or more to get to a gym. Like
Yeah.
the amount of dedication and hard work you see these people go through, there's no way that you can just sit on the couch anymore. Like there's no way.
It's life changing there because again, you went from I won't call you keyboard warrior because that's an insult, but you literally went from somebody who takes the pictures, who is looked at as not the tough guy. You weren't looked at as the, oh, it's him. Because realistically, you're seeing it a lot more now, but you're seeing a lot more like I train jujitsu. I'm seeing a lot more media guys train jujitsu, and it's because we've fallen in love with it. We want to know more, and the more we know, like I'm looking for that next opportunity to shoot a jujitsu competition, more so for the fact that it's practice for me, but I'm going to learn something. I'm going to learn something about photography and I'm going to learn something about jujitsu while I'm there. Like, let's go. Like, let's make this stuff happen. And from, everything you're saying, you're absolutely right. You're like absorbing this stuff. And we said it before, the osmosis portion of it, but realistically, like you're gaining it, and the people who do need the marketing are not the guys who are fighting in the UFC. They don't need that. They're getting paid to do that. The amateur, like I'm just gonna call him my brother-in-law because it's easier to say that. So my sister's boyfriend, my nephew's father. I met him years ago when he fought amateur, and he's talking about fighting BKFC. And my sister said, absolutely not, absolutely not. And my girlfriend said, oh, no, he shouldn't do that. And I was like, yeah, I mean, she goes, what if you have your jaw wired shut? I go, he's a stay-at-home dad now. It's not going to change his life. I said, but he trains and he trains and he trains. So
Yeah.
Kyle Watts, I'm going to make sure you watched an hour and a half into this, is talking about BKFC. So I'd love to see that just because for me, BKFC, hearing a skull get hit the first time ever, and especially the Gonzaga fight, that was the most horrifying sound I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, man, it's and it's crazy. Like I would not have the balls to jump out of a plane, but hearing that, and I think it's one of those things. I was able to build a comfort level at a younger age, and I did have some experience as far as getting in front of somebody and hearing somebody say "fight." I don't think it's that easy. If I was 36 years old right now without having that previous
No.
experience, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I don't want anybody to get discouraged. There's always the right time and place. So it's like no time is better than now. You know what I mean? You just got to believe in yourself and try something new. And I think the hardest no is like you telling yourself no to not even try. Like
Yeah.
that's the hardest one. And once you get past that no, I mean, who cares what anybody else says? You know what I mean? Like once you can prove it to yourself, you're like, I'm going for it. I mean, the whole point at that point is to prove that you're going for it. So
Yeah.
I think if people go with things at that mindset, they're going to accomplish a lot.
They really are. And I don't want to keep you any longer. You're definitely going to have to come back on the show. That's a promise.
For
But
sure,
I
man.
want you in this moment to self-promote and talk about everything you're a part of because there's Fight Bananas, there's the stuff you've been doing, and as
Right.
everybody can see, it's photographer, podcaster, father, husband, and fighter. So talk about some of the stuff you've been doing and where people can find your work.
So right now I kind of just rebranded everything. For those that may have known me as Edward Martinez Photography, I am officially now being known as Stache Mouth. Currently going to be hopefully within the next year starting a website and whatnot. But right now you can see my work on Instagram. Stache Mouth as in mustache, Stache mouth, one word, and also on YouTube as well. On YouTube, you will see my sports highlights, probably longer versions than the Instagram, but you'll see most of my content on both. You will also see us on the Fight Bananas official Instagram. Currently, we are going to be redoing our website there as well, but definitely follow us along. I help out with the Dave Van Auken show and the rest of the team over there. Jillian does her Mike Cuddles.
I was going to
Killa
say the Mike
B,
Cuddles. Yeah.
yeah, Mike Cuddles, Killa B, and the Banana and the Bee podcast. So Taylor Starling and us, we've grown together a lot. I actually got to do a whole behind the scenes on her last fight, and hopefully I'll be at this next fight. So I'm super excited about that. It looks like maybe I gotta try to make plans to, I think, Albuquerque. So
I got
I'm
some
hoping
people
to
you
do
might
that.
be able to talk to out there.
Oh, awesome! That would be fantastic. But
I think you
kind
might
of
know
like right.
Leonard Garcia.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there you go. That'd be awesome. But yeah, my kind of like go-to right now on the more I'm so everywhere. My more full times in between everything is I go to Technique Boxing and I film for them at least once a week. Fusion Excel at least once a week. Philly Fresh MMA on YouTube for Phil Rowe. We're working on creating a whole YouTube for him and branding out for him. And my boy Beast Boy Mike Davis. We have some things planned up for him coming up very soon, so that should be definitely a fun time. So I know he's aching to punch somebody in the face. So yeah, Mike Davis is ready. But
He
definitely,
absolutely is.
I'm always at a loss of words when these things happen. I just want to say, for real though, thank you to everyone. Thank you to Megan, my wife, my kids, Ari and Finn. Obviously, all of my Fight Bananas family, Dean Toole, and the Island Fights team. Also, everybody at First Round Management, I want to say thank you to you guys for always teaming up with us and helping us out. That in itself has been a dream just to meet you guys and to be able to work alongside you guys is crazy. But yeah, like I just think oh, my sponsor from the fight altogether, Project AMF, Colby, my man, thank you for showing up on the spot with not one but like three pairs of shorts for me to look for. I want to thank you so much for that, and from the team over at Just Blaze Clothing, and my lawyer Daniel Martinez, the fight lawyer. If you guys ever need something fight related or even more, hit him up. But yeah, guys. Out of everything, I just want you to know, I hope if at all I inspired you at all. Thank you. And any of you could ever hit me up in the DMs. And like, just if you have any questions about this experience and, maybe you have some butterflies or just want to know what it was like, feel free to hit me up. And I just want to share that experience. And my whole thing is sharing the knowledge so that way somebody can do something more.
Absolutely. And dude, it was so exciting to be able to get to do this because again, we've been talking for a while. We've been trying to book you on the show, and you're a very busy man.
Thank
But
you,
I
dude.
could not pass up the opportunity to talk about you fighting. And I thought we were going to talk like a little bit about fighting and more about your photography, but I love every bit of insight you brought to this. And I got to say, you did that better than 99% of fighters when you thank people, because most of the time they're like, oh, okay. I gotta thank. Hold on. I gotta thank.
Right.
They have like a list. I know one. Fighter had like a post-it note. He definitely had something written down because he's like, hold on. Yeah. This guy. This guy. This guy. So for
Right.
myself, La Barba Cubana, amazing beard care. He used to be the pin that was right here, but the pin broke off, and I'm very sad. But it
Oh
keeps
man.
my beard nice and smooth, fresh, and doesn't smell like disgusting when I roll jujitsu. Over in Orlando, since you're over that way, Bertzo's Bake Shop is over there. It's actually a friend of mine that I went to high school with, an amazing baker, some of the best baked goods I've ever had in my life. And I'm not just pulling her up, but seriously,
I'm ready.
look it up. Fat Boy Jiu Jitsu for us guys that are not small, that are not 155 pounds. This way. Again, I did it again. I was like, this way. At Tim Makes Knives on Instagram, one of my good friends who's bladesmithing, which is super cool just to see him kind of do that kind of stuff. But on behalf of myself, Combat Press, for giving me this platform, Eddie, thank you so much. This was super awesome. Thank the wife for me because I know it's late. You guys had a babysitter. There's a lot going on, but realistically, man, this was a fun show, and I can't wait to see what you do in the future and moving forward, man.
Dude, I appreciate that. For all my Jaws kids out there that I used to work with at Universal, chomp chomp. And for my gamers online, Kill Secured Squad, I'll be on in a moment. We'll get some Fortnite dubs.
All right, man. You have a great night. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you so much for this. You have a good night. Yeah.